Okay, so thanks everybody for joining. I really do appreciate it. Again, my name is Steve Fabretti. I recognize a lot of the names on the call here today, so thanks very much. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off my video for right now, or take this screen and move it so that I can actually see a little bit more of my screen. Thanks for joining us real quick today, along with Chef Jason Hall. What we wanted to do today is quickly talk to you guys about the 5 wow benefits of Southbend. So what I did was, Chef Jason and I, basically sat down and we said, let's pull out the 5 things that we do different. And if you noticed earlier on the slide before, we really are trying to point out the things that we do different. And I think that's what it all comes down to. Most of us on the line here, you hear Southbend, of course, you're thinking ranges, you're thinking convection ovens. There's a lot more to it than just a simple range and a simple convection oven. I wanted to pull out the things that we do differently that the competition is not doing, okay? Or, not everybody is even coming close to doing out there. What do we do differently? So before I get started, with all of those specific things, the 5 things, okay? I want to make sure that I remind you guys that the 2020 price books are available for download. For those of us on the line who typically would receive hard copies of these price books, just please be advised that you're not going to get hard copies of these price books, only because, we most likely are not printing them. I don't even think our printer is actually open right now. So do me a favor and go on to southbendnc.com or crownsteingroup.com and grab the latest and greatest price book. One thing that I have to point out is if you're familiar with our products, if you're familiar with our price books, these new price books this year have so much more than they've had in years past. I mean, so much more. We've added a lot of marketing resources into these books, and pictures and photos and options and accessories, a lot of stuff that we haven't had in the past. So without any further ado, let me take you to number 1. Number 1, we're going to talk about the 5 burner range. Most people on the line are approached by customers or our customers, and you would simply say, hey, I need a 6 burner range. Or call up your local dealer or whoever you speak with, your rep group. And your first question is give me a 6 burner range. And I often ask the question, like, why are you looking for a 6 burner range? Like, why? And most often, the answer is, well, because that's all I know. But isn't a 6 burner range like relatively pretty boring? I mean, everybody gets a 6 burner range. I'm not saying that a 6 burner range is not needed. I'm saying let's educate ourselves on what some different things are out there, because maybe a 6 burner range is great and it works fine, but maybe a 5 burner range is something that we need and would really help us even more in the kitchen. So everybody and every manufacturer does a 6 burner range, right? You see your standard 6 burner on the left here. Then we can do ones with wavy grates in our Ultimate Series line. Then when I can mix and match some burners and stuff, then I can even do a 4 burner range, right? I can put 40,000 BTUs into the 4 burner range. But nobody in the industry can actually combine a setup that looks something like this, okay? You got your 33,000 BTU burners in the front, whichever kind of burners you want in 33,000 BTUs. We have 2 styles you can get. But more importantly, you can do 40,000 BTUs in the back. And Chef, are you with us now?
Yes, I am.
Awesome, welcome.
It's great to be here. I was really worried I wasn't going to make it through. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've gotten on at the perfect time, because I know this 5 burner range is something that we really enjoy talking about, and I can't really explain it in that culinary sense like you can. So I'm just going to quickly turn it right over to you to explain to everybody on the line why it's so important having a 5 burner.
Sure. This is probably one of my favorite new designs that I really didn't know was available either. In all my time within the industry, 20 plus years in private country clubs, we always needed something like this just for a la carte, just for the line where we're going to do our prep before lunch opens, and then our prep in between services, etc. 90% of the time when you walk into a restaurant, you see a pot of water, usually a tall pot of water on the back burner, because that's where they're going to do their a la minute blanching for vegetables. That's where they're dropping pasta, maybe even retherming in bags, who knows. But you have a large pot on a small burner, or in some cases you have a wide pot straddling 2 burners. Just so that they can get that firepower up to where they need in order to tackle whatever their protocol is with how they set up their line for service. I'm just as guilty of it in the past, of trying to take a you know, a big Navy pan and stretch it over 2 burners because I have to make 8 gallons of this product, and I'd rather cook it wide than tall. And so these give us a whole new kind of ability to manage those big projects on the a la carte line using, you know, some serious power that Steve has probably already talked about. So having changing the whole framework of this, and instead of having that tall pot to the back for blanching, now we can have a wider pot on a burner that actually fits it. And if it is meant for veg pickup, well, now we can have, you know, 6 or 8 dipper baskets in there to blanch and drop all of our veg on pickup, as opposed to we have a tall, narrow pot. We're probably going to be dropping our veg in batches. So all the carrots for the next 2 orders, all the broccoli for the next 2 orders, because we're probably just using a China cap or something for those quantities in order to push the food out at those surge times. So if we have a wider vessel that fits the burner, we're going to get up to our simmer much, much faster. So inevitably, when we have to switch that utility out during dinner service, we're going to be able to get back to our simmer faster to continue cooking. Having 2 of them, well, now you could allocate, one takes care of starch components and one takes care of veg components, so that we can, you know, alleviate any of those gluten things, and then keep the 3 burners up front for all the firepower. I mean, there's obviously going to be those 911 moments during a la carte where every single surface has a pan on it, and you're trying to squeeze in everywhere to saute and sear. And so had I had my way long ago, never did I have only a 6-top burner. I always had a 6-top plus something. You know, if it was 8 burners or, you know, 10 or even 12 in some instances, I would have set this up with a plancha next to it or a French top next to it, so that I could achieve all those things within a really compact space. And so when I go out and talk to chefs about their next build out and their next design, which has been quite often over the last year, you know, I've mentioned this and shown it to them, and it's really been kind of an aha moment. That can provide a massive solution for those things. And then, you know, aside from a la carte, just those prep moments between services or prior to service, you know, how often have we used a wide pan to do just what I was mentioning prior, or trying to sear beef tips or lamb shanks or short ribs in a wide pan that's straddling 2 burners, which is going to scorch in some areas. It's going to then transfer that flavor. It's a crazy inconsistent heat, so you're only placing product in a few spots anyways. It's completely counterproductive, where you can solve all that by just readjusting and the thinking of going with a 5 burner. So it's my favorite solution to a la carte.
You know, and when you guys look at this range top configuration, you know, like many people I have spoken to, you know, just trying to explain it, it is very difficult to do, and it is a very difficult configuration to find. We're the only one that has this configuration. Try searching for a 5 burner configuration online, and you won't find any out there. You'll find them set up with the exact same BTU burners, 5 of them, and they're in almost like an X pattern, okay? So trying to explain this is very difficult. I absolutely suggest keeping this photo. You can get it from either myself or directly from the folks over at Eaton Marketing. We'll make sure that you have it, so that when you are discussing this, you can discuss it in such a way that comes with a little visual support going along with it. I think it goes a long way. The other thing I'd like to mention as well, as 40,000 BTUs on a mid-tier restaurant range, and obviously this is something that can easily be considered, you know, a specified piece of equipment. I mean, it can go in those jobs that you guys are designing out there. It doesn't always have to be, you know, the large platinum pieces. This is a specialty piece. It is only available on Ultimate Series, and the Ultimate Series carries a lot of the premium range benefits as our Platinum Series does. But with that said, you know, 40,000 BTU burners are still higher powered burners than even other manufacturers' premium pieces of equipment out there. You know, when you look at some of these larger burners in my Platinum piece, I get 45,000 BTUs in Platinum, and in Ultimate, I get 40,000 BTUs. So if you have any chefs, or you are in contact with any chefs that are, you know, purely concerned with power, speed, recovery, Southbend offers the, you know, the highest powered BTU burners in the marketplace today, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at number two. What is our second really most, like I like to say, my wow moment right here, right? I like to talk about the fact that our Platinum series is so highly versatile, but more so when it comes to sizes, okay? I think I may have talked about this several weeks ago, maybe on the Eating in the Kitchen seminar, where we talked a little bit about the 32 and 36, but I wanted to try to provide some visuals here, and really think about, what, going down to a 32-inch unit means for the customer. Number one, you do not lose 1 square or 1 cubic, millimeter from from range-based space. Okay, you see this range right here? It's got a size range interior that, by the way, allows a sheet pan to fit both ways. We are one of only 2 manufacturers in either my S series line, my Ultimate series line, and my Platinum series line that I can actually fit a sheet pan in both ways. And for everybody on the call that is not aware, we sell bakery depth ovens, or everybody sells bakery depth ovens. Why? Because there's more airflow and because you can put sheet pans in long ways. Well, in my series of ranges, whether it's an S series, which is entry level, all the way up to my Platinum series, and a conventional baking oven base, I can get my sheet pans in both ways. And I can do that even in a 32-inch unit, okay? So my Platinum series, not only does it provide the ultimate configurable options in well over 5,000, okay? But I can also offer all of these tops that you see right here in 32 and 36 inches. And that really, really gives you ultimate flexibility, because if you can cut back 4 inches on hood space over, 3 pieces, you're talking, possibly, 10 to 12 inches of space. I mean, what is a foot of hood space worth in the state of Florida right now, or even all over the country? I mean, I hear answers anywhere between $1,200, $1,500, $2,500 a foot, a linear foot. Well, if you're designing a project and you can cut back on your customers for 32-inch range pieces, of course it's going to give less space up on the top. You're cutting back 4 inches, but you're saving a lot of hood space, okay? And that could save the customer ultimately, up to $2,000. You're talking about piping for gas. You're talking about Ansel piping, obviously sheet metal for the hood. And then you also look at those projects that there's already a pre-existing hood in the, in the layout already. So now you're designing, X amount of pieces under a pre-existing hood. Well, what does that do? Well, that actually gives your customer the opportunity to add maybe additional cabinet space, storage space, depending on how many pieces. Well, maybe it'll give them even an opportunity to add in that fryer that they've wanted to add in for so long. So it really, really gives you a lot of flexibility between 32 and 36. And we're the only ones in the industry that provide all of the choices that you see on your screen in both 32 and 36. A lot of the most asked question is, talk to me a little bit about the plancha, the graduated hot top, and then obviously your French top. So I'll turn that over to Chef Jason to just give a little excerpt on where he would use a plancha and some of those extended uses on that graduated or that French top. Chef?
Sure. So, I would pair this up with the five burner. Absolutely. In some instances, the plancha is perfect for searing. So if they're doing a ton of steaks or fish or chicken that's all being seared in multiple pans, obviously, like in that 5 burner, you're now kind of limited to only 3 heat sources. But what if you do away with that altogether? What if you're able to get 20 or 30 portions on a plancha to push that volume out? If they're basically searing and finishing in an oven anyways, you have the ability now to kind of maximize the entire landscape of that plancha, the entire surface, to take on as many orders as you can fit on there. You got to be careful about mixing any proteins, but if it is a steak driven place or fish driven place, or if it's a hot app station where they have a lot of little things that they're searing, that's going to be kind of the place to fit that in. And it really depends on what their menu mix is and what their goals are, but it's definitely a great piece for volume of searing products. And then the French and the graduated, I've mostly always had one or the other, depending on whether it was a new build out or something I kind of inherited. But I love them. They take a little bit of getting used to when you cook on them for the first time. Obviously, the closer you get to that center ring, the hotter it gets. But you can pull that centerpiece out, put a wok in there so that you have some really high direct heat for those quick moments. But again, you're maximizing the entire surface area to put everything wherever you want it. You don't have a we don't have a range top where, you know, a small pot might, you know, kind of turn or fall off to the side, or, you know, really not have that even heat through the bottom. Whereas this is going to be hot in the center, and the heat is going to kind of evenly radiate out to the side. So it takes a little getting used to. Where's the simmer? Where's the holding? Where's the searing? But again, you're maximizing the entire area for all that you need. So maybe that 5-burner now just handles all of our starch and veg, and maybe this graduated is where we do all of our searing and sauces, etc. Because you can, on either graduated or French, set a stack of pans to the back that are already going to be hot just from sitting on that surface. We would keep a stack of saute pans to the back corner, and then when it was time to go, we pulled it out. It was already at a couple hundred degrees, put it in the center, sear our product, and then, you know, go through the rest. So, you know, to me, it's about maximizing the space that you have to do volume always. And if I can cut down the amount of pans that I'm going through every single night, because now I have this wider surface area solution of plancha or French graduated, depending on what kind of heat source they're looking for, it really makes for cutting down ticket times at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about.
Okay, so just a real quick, guys. Notice over here, this piece right here. This is an induction top. We can also do induction along our Platinum series, and we can also do electric along with our Platinum series. You'll notice here the 9¼ inch deep front shelf. It is uniform with all of these pieces here. It is the widest front shelf in the industry. But what I'm showing you here is that all of our Platinum lineup, including induction or even electric, can also be batteried together. Now, Platinum doesn't have to be batteried. They can be freestanding pieces, but these are also sectional matches here. And we offer a very, very comprehensive induction setup as well with Southbend. We don't have a lot of the, you know, the specialty pieces. Our partner and sister company in Jade does a lot of the, you know, the Mongolian barbecues and, you know, a wok range or something like that. They do a lot of that specialty stuff. For you know, the standard, you know, strength and power in the kitchen, we have all available pieces. I want to take you to our number 3, which, you know, what I have on the screen there is like, well, what's so amazing about a standard oven versus a convection oven? Well, the truth is this is a regular convection oven base that, as we all know, is not going to cook the same or perform the same as a standard convection oven. But with Southbend, what we can do is I can actually transform that base from a standard convection oven base, which is basically, we joke about it, we call it a fan in the can, which is basically a standard oven with a fan throwing around, you know, hot radiant energy inside of the oven. Well, now I can actually build a TrueVection underneath a Platinum top, and I can actually get a true baking convection oven on the base of a Platinum range. But I don't have to just put it on the base of a Platinum range like this. I can actually put 2 foot of char grill, 2 foot of griddle. I can put a plancha. I can put a French top. I can put whatever I want on top of a TrueVection base. I can put a TrueVection on top of the countertop. I can put TrueVection, and I can stack them. And you'll notice, you know, you see a horizontal handle right here. You see vertical handles here. And this is for ergonomic reasons, you know, where customers don't have to bend down. They can actually kind of, you know, stand upright and actually pull on that door. The doors themselves come with solid or glass doors, as you see in this photo right here. This is a job that we did a few years ago. You can see the step up in the back, the plancha off to the left here. You'll see your standard oven right over here, but then you'll also see your TrueVection piece right here with solid doors, okay? And then obviously a little bit of cabinet space here as well. We even will do some etching on the back of the range. This piece right here is actually removable just in case this business changes names, changes ownership, and the new owners come in and they're not going to call it She-Wolf. You know, they want to call it something else. They can simply just remove this piece, give us a call, and we'll make exactly the same piece and re-etch in the restaurant name. So we have a lot of versatility in our TrueVection, and I'm going to turn it over to Chef Jason here in just a moment, but I want to introduce you to its cousin, if you would, our TrueVapor oven, which is the same benefits and modularity in our Platinum lineup, okay? So now I give you a combination cooking oven in the same profile as a TrueVection oven, which is standard dry bake, but now I can introduce the combination technology and the flexibility of putting anything I want on the top. And in this photo right here, you can actually see 24 inches of griddle, but the 12 inches on the left of the griddle is actually grooved for markings, okay? And then you have your standard 2 burners on the right. So the ultimate in flexibility, you can see here in our TrueVection oven, comes with a water treatment system that is actually mounted inside of the panel, easily replaceable. I mean, you know, again, the benefits of this really should be spoken about by Chef Jason. So I'm just going to immediately turn it right over to him to talk a little bit about this and its cousin, the TrueVection.
Thanks, Steve. So yeah, TrueVection is really the ultimate convection oven that's going to give us you know, firepower, recovery, no matter if it's savory or baking, but you know, it's going to be able to push through that high volume stress of a la carte, et cetera, and give us all the benefits of even cooking. And not only that, but also, you know, baking, et cetera. If they don't have space and they need to have recovery and power, and they're pushing out a lot of product in an a la carte setting, much better, much more consistent, much more efficient than what we call the fan in the can. We're going to have more recovery. That thing can be opened you know, hundreds of times throughout a service and not lose or cook any less efficient than it would be if we were putting food in and watching it through the window the entire time. So for volume, for consistency, for evenness of cooking, and for speed of cooking, that's the one we're going to look at, TrueVection. It's little brother here, True Vapor. I've been working on for quite a while, actually, prior to even coming on board with Southbend. I was kind of working on this thing a little bit with the team, and you know, the goal was to take what a combi oven does and reduce it to no programs. How can we still put that power that we have with TrueVection? How can we change that over and add power with moisture, which is the best benefit that combis give us? You know, speaking from experience, the last build out I did for myself personally, before leaving that side of the industry, we put combis in all of our a la carte kitchens of my last club, of all 4 kitchens, knowing that we could, you know, really benefit our product by finishing our food with dry and steam. So if our settings were 320% steam, then we knew that the product's going to cook faster, we're going to retain moisture, et cetera, and really just serve a better product at the end of the day. The problem always was recovery. In a traditional combi oven, opening and closing the door, you know, can't always come back when it's hundreds of times throughout service. So that was the goal, is to build a better finishing combi, or a better a la carte combi that could be just rocking through tons of prep and production. Now, I always first say to chefs when they first look at this, it's not really a combi oven if you're a combi user. If you're used to setting convection and you're used to setting a percentage of humidity, this is not going to set a percentage of humidity. It's a power setting of humidity or steam, depending on how you look at it. Combi ovens have a lambda sensor, so they're monitoring relative humidity. That's what allows us to, at a percentage, saturate the cabinet. This does not. This does not have any kind of relative humidity sensor. It is 15,000 watt steam generator that is going to dump in what we need when we need it. And so it's a power setting on here. That's the only little trick to it that takes a little bit of getting used to. If they haven't used a combi before, they're going to be fine. If they have used a combi before, we need to, you know, walk through them, what the settings are, which is a little bit different because as you'll see, this is kind of a recipe chart we're providing with it, so they have some sort of starting point. You know, the cheddar biscuit, if you've been to the factory, we do those cheddar biscuits every day while you're there. And that's where I started testing, was with breads and the biscuits, because I wanted to have moisture. I wanted to have dry heat. I wanted to see that product leaven evenly, but also get golden brown, and use steam to help my leavening process speed up, but use the dry heat to help them get nice and golden brown. So 8 minutes in there, those are done. My settings are 340 dry, and steam is 7. So it makes no sense when a combi user looks at this for the first time, because that's completely irrelevant to cooking in a cabinet that has relative humidity monitoring. So we are using a power setting. So that's power setting 7 of steam. And so that's what we kind of have to, I kind of break that barrier down with them to begin. If you want a convection cook, if you want a full steam, if you want to do a combination of both, and you need power and recovery, this thing is going to do it. We set this up multiple times at the factory and ran just exactly that scenario of an a la carte service where there's 80 checks or 70 checks. And, you know, I was searing salmon and finishing it in the oven, searing, you know, strips in a cast iron, finishing them in the oven with some compound butter, et cetera. And while there's, you know, every wire the engineers can come up with in there looking to see how we're recovering and how we're maintaining as we're opening and closing that door over and over and over again, the results were great. We lost very, very little. Everything was accurate. These cooking times of finishing there are based off of those tests. And so, you know, that's the only thing that takes a little bit of getting used to, is if they've come from that world. But the benefit is that how fast this recovers also when you're switching from program to program. If you're in convection and you have to go to steam, or if you're in steam and have to go to convection, the turnover time is less than 6 minutes. It very, very quickly evacuates and saturates the cabinet. And it's all due to, you know, the compact size and the power that's built into this thing.
Just wanted to touch base on upright infrared broilers. You know, this is something that, you know, there's not a lot of folks out there that actually will classify their broiler other than being infrared. So we wanted to make sure that you guys understood that in all honesty, I mean, we really pioneered the infrared term in broilers, and it truly, really is an infrared setup. Most broilers themselves are going to heat, you know, with radiant energy, okay? But what we've done is we've taken our infrared broiler, and it has been chosen by all of these steakhouses that you see on the screen and a lot more. And the reason why they've chosen it is because they're basically taking, you know, an upright broiler and looking for like ridiculous amounts of heat. And we get that heat out of infrared broiler technology, not just simple radiant technology. So what does that mean? If you look here on these two photos right here, you have your radiant broiler, which is very, very typical in the industry. What you see here is an open flame, okay, coming out of a burner. This is the burner right here, and here are, you know, ceramic tiles. These ceramic tiles are lined up on both sides of the broiler, okay? And basically that flame hits the tiles, and the heat is absorbed into the tiles and then eventually radiated down, you know, from those tiles and ultimately to the deck and to your product, okay? This particular technology is different, okay? This uses gas and air mixture inside of the chamber, okay, to create combustion, okay? That flame is actually produced inside of the burner box itself and then radiates down in a very, very flat light. Now, you can't tell from this picture right here, the light that actually shines down is almost, it's pretty much like sunlight, okay? I mean, imagine, you know, you being so close to the sun, how hot it would be. You basically will feel the exact same thing just standing in front of this broiler when this broiler is on, okay? It's flat red light radiating down and cooking your product perfectly even. The tile temperatures are about 1600 degrees, which is the hottest broiler on the market, compared to this unit right here, which, you know, right around the tiles themselves, you know, again, it's open flame, right? So open flame is only going to get so hot. You're looking at about 1100 degrees, maybe 1200 degrees, you know, at this tile here, radiating down. This is more of an angled heat, and this is absolutely a flat heat. And Chef Jason will talk to you about the different products that are better because of the two different technologies here. But it is absolutely worth noting that we are the only manufacturers that are actually providing this kind of a layout and giving you that, you know, intense heat where, again, your preheat time is 90 seconds. Again, your tile temperature is 1600 degrees. One thing I want to make sure that I note, and this question comes up a lot, okay? You know, a lot of people think I want a hotter broiler, I need a hotter char broil. So what do? You immediately look to the BTU, right? When you see higher BTUs, you automatically assume that it is hotter, which is the case in a lot of cases, or you're burning more fuel and going to get there quicker. You know, we can have that discussion, you know, on another time. What you're going to find in our price book is the infrared broiler is 104,000 BTUs per deck. Our radiant broiler is 120,000 BTUs per deck, or 110, 15, something like that. It is a higher BTU grade than our infrared broiler, but our infrared broiler is absolutely, no question about it, going to be hotter. Okay, so I'm going to turn it right over to Chef Jason so he can explain to you, what uses for each individual broiler, and then we'll wrap it up. Chef?
Thanks, Steve. So, it really depends on what they're cooking. If we're talking on infrared, we want to stay with products that have very even landscape. So steaks, for instance, which they are completely the same, thickness the entire way across. And obviously we're going to have 10-ounce fillets that are 4 or 5 inches thick, and we might have a tomahawk that's, thicker than that. Strip steaks might be 2 inches thick. So we do have varying depths of product, but the point is that all of those pieces are the same thickness the entire way across, so that we get even caramelization. If we were to put chicken in this or salmon in this, it's going to overcook because of those thinner parts that taper down. The tail end of the breast tapers down, the belly side of the salmon tapers down. Those pieces, those thinner pieces, are going to overcook within seconds, and you'll still have a semi, rare to medium rare main piece of product. So not good for those types of things. And that's where we want to push. If they have a variety of product, we want to push them to radiant, because it's going to have a little bit less heat. We're still able to accomplish those flavors and kind of that benefit that we like from broilers, that texture that we get on the surface. But since it's a lower heat, we have to worry about that a little bit less. So we have more ability to manage tapered product in a radiant. The difference in steaks is just going to be how we move the deck during service. If we have 10-ounce fillets that are 6 inches thick, obviously they're closer to the heat source, so they're going to caramelize and completely sear much faster than the strip steak that's next to it that's only 2 inches thick. So that just becomes a cooking process of learning how to move the deck up and down. We might start off high and then drop the deck down to the last rung, so that those fillets can kind of carry over out front. The way that I had mine set up at my last place was we turned the right side down just a little bit, so we kind of had somewhat of a carryover cooking zone, even though in this, the entire thing, even when it's turned down, is still blazing hot. And we used the left side to do all of our searing. We moved our product that was going to carry over either off to the side or into the upper holding oven, or even out to the front, because when you pull this drawer out, there's a stop about 5 inches out. So you can let the drawer kind of pause on that, and you're still going to be getting 600 degrees worth of heat, even when that drawer is pulled out, even on that front edge when it's pulled out of the broiler. So we use that for a carryover cooking process. Now, the steaks that you put in here, you don't want to have any type of marination on. No fat, no clarified butter, no marinade. You'll have immediate combustion. If it's vinaigrette or a marinade, or they've seen a video on YouTube where someone dips a steak in clarified butter and puts it on a broiler, that wasn't a Southbend broiler. That equals combustion. And if it doesn't combust the first time, all of that fat is going to collect on the grease tray, which is just below the grate. And in a day's time, they're going to have that thing catch on fire. So this is low fat to start. Brush the protein with a little bit of high temperature oil, whether it's sunflower oil or vegetable oil. Season it and put it in there. 9 times out of 10, I get a call and says, "Hey, our broiler's either too hot or it's too cold." They send me a video or a picture, and the steak is incinerated, but it's raw inside. So then I say, well, what kind of spice rub are you using? What kind of marinade? Did you have a marinade? Especially when it's someone who has a char grill who's moving over to this for the first time. That's the number one error, is using fat that they were comfortable with on their char grill, trying to transition that product over to this. So there's ways around that. We just season it differently. And then whatever their favorite spice rub was or their favorite marinade was, we create a compound butter. So as that steak is resting, we're brushing it with the final flavors that before they put on prior to cooking. Now we're putting on after, and they will be just as happy. Trust me. you know, my last club, we had 5 different compound butters for the different products that we put on our broiler. And the guest is going to taste it more immediately because now it's on the surface of the product. And so that's one of the issues. If they really want to use marination and they really want to use spice rubs and things like that, and that's a you know, a fail point, then we need to move them towards radiant, where it's going to have less aggressive heat. You're not going to have as much of that combustion, but still the product's going to have to be patted very dry from a marinade or something, even going into a radiant. So the great thing about an infrared too is inevitably you're going to have that table that walks in at 9:15 or 10:15 when you close, and you might have grilled items on your menu, salmon, chicken, etc. And so since this thing heats up in 90 seconds, I can mark my salmon, I could quick mark my chicken and get it in the oven, because I'm going to be able to have that accomplished in less than 5 minutes. Whereas if I stick to my traditional way it's written on the menu, wait for the grill to come up to get marks on my chicken or my salmon before I finish it in the oven, I'm going to be waiting 25 minutes. So I've used it many times for those 911 situations where someone comes in, the grill's already been off. We were having a slow night, so the cooks cut it off at 10 till anyways. And we have to, you know, get marks on food so that we have that same, we want to stick as close to what we have written on the menu as possible, and use it just to get those quick marks and then move it on through the process.
And finally, last just to show you this, guys, and I believe, Michael, that answered your question about, you know, grease-laden product, you know, what was better between infrared and radiant. I think that answered your question. If not, you know, please just let us know. Perfect. Okay, great. So finally, before we let you guys go, just want to quickly show you what Del Frisco's is using. As I showed you earlier, all of those premier steakhouses all around Chicago and really all over the country really call on Southbend for, you know, for the infrared broiler and even the radiant broiler as well. But for a steakhouse, as Chef Jason just explained, I mean, you know, that experience that you're going to get out of our broiler with the intense heat and the infrared light on that broiler is second to none. We also offer a radiant broiler with a flat grill top on the top, okay? And again, this is the choice of Del Frisco's. This has a, you know, the rack is a different system. It's actually a bit more advanced than our traditional broiler. This is actually a ratcheted handle, and it's got a lot of different settings, 9 positions as a matter of fact, as I see right there. And it really, you know, gives you a lot more flexibility as far as raising up and down from a non-traditional sense. But in those applications where they want to sear in a searing plate up at the top, they can get that. And finally, this is also available in a sectional match, which means, you know, manifolded in the front, and then, you know, range, whatever is next to it, you know, plancha, whatever, it could be piped all together using the front manifold. It is made just like the broilers, where we can make it and pipe it in together. So I will ask if there are any additional questions. I hope that helped out a little bit, not only on the Southbend product, but on some of the unique things that we do, and maybe provides a little bit more insight to help you guys have those conversations with some of your experienced culinary experts out there.
But wow, that was pretty amazing. That was like 5 wows amazing. That was really good. No questions though? No? All right.
Oh, all good. Thank you.
And Jason, thanks for your help today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for putting on just one of millions Zoom meetings that you guys have done over the last few weeks. So we appreciate you. Oh, here comes the last minute question. Let's see what it is. It is.
Thank you, Lauren.
Lauren said, great job.
Thank you, Lauren.
One person loved your presentation. Good job. But no, much, Steve and Jason. We really appreciate you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jason. You guys
Thank
be
you.
safe.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
All right, y'all be safe. Thanks.
Bye.